Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to talk about high-yield savings accounts today. So if you've been following me for a while, you know we talk about high-yield savings accounts all the time. I want to talk about exactly what that is, why it's beneficial, why you should open one. Let's dive into it. So when I say high yield savings account, that just means that you are being paid a higher amount of interest by the bank where you're keeping your savings, where you're keeping your money. So I want to explain why you're even earning interest on your savings account anyway, because you are earning interest on your savings account no matter what bank you are at. So if you've noticed, like if you are just at a regular old brick and mortar bank, brick and mortar just means physical buildings, the ones that you pass when you're driving down the street, that's a brick and mortar bank. You'll see a couple of pennies dropped into your account every month or every couple of months. That's the interest that they're paying you for having your money at their institution. Now, why they're paying you interest is because when you deposit money at a bank into a savings account specifically, they're not just locking it up in a safe for you. They're not just saying like, okay, we'll hold on to it for you. You're welcome for doing you a favor. You're the one doing them a favor because they're then taking that money that's inside of your savings account and they are then using it to make themselves more money. They're using it for loans and mortgages, to lend it, to invest it, and they are pocketing the earned money from using your money. Like they're using your money as a loan, basically. So then they're paying you interest of like, thank you, here you go, here's your couple of pennies, right? But in our brains, and I think how it's, been marketed to us, just banking in general, is like, yes, you're welcome for holding on to your money for you and keeping it safe, which like, yes, they are doing that too. But when we're talking about earning interest on your savings account, that's why it's not crazy that high yield savings accounts exist that are paying you more in order to let them use your money and have your money sitting in that kind of savings account. So high yield means that they are paying you more interest, a higher yield. Yield is another word for interest. So high yield just means more interest. Right now, there is like the average, across the America is 0.05%, I believe, to like 0.0, like 7 or 8. That's where it's hovering at. And while I'm recording this, it is February of 2024. So that's when we're talking about these interest rates, because interest rates change over the course of years, the months, etc. So giving us a reference point. High yield savings accounts, the average right now, the yield is between like 4.3 to 5%. So when we're talking about a high yield, that's the difference that we're talking about. And that's a pretty drastic difference of the money that your money could be making you while it's just sitting in a savings account. So to actually articulate this difference, I'm going to like throw some math at you. So if the current interest that you can make in a brick and mortar, like let's say Bank of America, inside Bank of America is 0.01%, while the rate inside of, let's say, an Ally high yield savings account is 4.35%. If you have $5,000 in a savings account over the course of a year, you will either make 50 cents in interest or $221.89 in interest. That's not a low amount, right? That is a significant amount. And especially because interest rates are higher right now because of just like the current economic state and where federal interest rates are landing. This is a much bigger difference than what it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic, where it was like we were cheering for like, woohoo, we got to 1% in our high yield savings. So this is a big enough difference that it behooves you to have your money sitting inside of a high yield savings account. There is no benefit to you having your savings any other place besides the fact that it's just easier to not have to make a change. That's the only reason why you would want to leave your money where it is if it's not earning a high yield. Now, I want to also let you know that high yield doesn't have any like regulations on who can call themselves a high yield. So when you're looking for a high yield savings account, make sure you're looking at the actual interest rate. Is it actually 4.3% and above right now? Or are they just calling it high yield and instead of like 0.01%, it's like 0.3%, right? And it's like, woohoo, high yield. Or I think is it Bank of America? It's either Bank of America or Wells Fargo. I'm going to talk about switching banks next week, and we're going to get into the dirtiness of Bank of America and Wells Fargo and why you should leave them ASAP. But one of them, they have like a silver tier and a gold tier in their savings account. And like one of the perks that comes with moving up the tiers is getting a higher interest rate. But it literally goes from like 0.01% to 0.02% to then in the gold tier, it's 0.03%. My babies, that is not a high yield savings. That is not a perk. That is marketing. That is marketing, marketing, marketing. Okay, so let me also talk about like, why are some banks able to offer high yield savings accounts and why are some banks not, right? Or not able to, or just not offering them in general. The main difference is that brick and mortar banks, like the banks that have physical buildings and upkeep, they have a higher overhead. And so they aren't able to offer as high of an interest because they have higher rates of like expenses and costs to run their business. There is this whole tier of online banking now, which even if you are doing online banking, but your bank is a brick and mortar, like online banking has taken over the world at this point, right? Like all of our money is electronic now. Nobody's holding cash anymore these days. Sometimes we are, of course, but online banks are banking institutions that are purely online, which means they don't have to worry about buildings, they don't have to worry about cleaning them, they don't have to worry about that kind of upkeep costs. And so they're able to offer their clients, their consumers, a higher rate of interest for having their money in their savings account. So it's not like this scammy, like, ooh, that feels too good to be true. Like when you actually run the numbers, it makes sense that certain banking institutions are able to offer a higher interest rate than others. Okay. Now, what I also want to talk about is what you should be looking for when you're looking at high yield savings accounts, when you're looking at different online banks. Like, let's make sure you're covered. So all of these kinds of banking institutions can have the exact same protections and the exact same capabilities as each other. You just need to know what to look for. So the first thing is you want to look to make sure that your bank is FDIC insured. So I talk about Ally Bank all the time. They are one of my personal favorites. I use them personally. I've had them for ages. I've talked with some of the people on their like leadership and marketing team, really enjoy their mission and like who they are as people. So you'll hear me talk about Ally a lot, but that doesn't mean that they are the only bank that I would ever recommend or like they're the best of the best. They're just my personal preference. And I'm also not sponsored, by the way. I get asked that all the time. I just actually really love their product. Okay. So a bank like Ally, they are FDIC insured, which means they are covering up to $250,000 per account in case the bank goes under. So if you all remember what happened with Silicon Valley Bank a couple years ago, how long ago was that? Whenever that happened, when like that bank collapsed, right? And everyone was like, "Oh my God, my money's gone. What's happening?" Da 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 da. The FDIC swooped in and made sure everyone got their money back. They also went above and beyond what they were actually supposed to insure. So, like, there were people who had way more than $250,000 in their bank, and the FDIC made sure everyone got their money back. Like, they took care of that. So, everyone's money was protected. Because let me tell you one thing, the FDIC is going to make damn sure that nobody in this country loses faith in the banking system. Because if they lose faith, if we all lose faith in the banking system, shit is going to go to hell. So the FDIC, like, I just want you all, I know there's like some trepidation that I've heard from some of my clients and from some of you all about, like, oh my gosh, is my money going to be safe in an online bank? As long as there's FDIC insurance, you're going to be good, baby cakes. Like, that FDIC, they're not going to let you lose faith in the banking system if anything were to happen. And what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, that was like the first in a long time. Like, this doesn't happen often. Like, it's very rare that that actually would need to happen. So that's something that you're going to want to look for. And most banks will have that big and plastered on their website, especially after Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. They're like, FDIC insurance, we have it. Don't lose faith in us. So you'll see that very clearly stated on their website. The other thing that I want you to look for is you want to just make sure that the bank that you're banking at doesn't have fees. No fees whatsoever. No fees, no fees, no fees. We're going to talk about this more next week when we walk through like exactly how to switch banks and how to do it with ease and without stress. But there are so many banking options where you don't have to worry about overdraft fees. You don't have to worry about card reimbursement fees. You don't have to worry about account minimums in your savings account, or else you'll get hit with a $35 monthly maintenance fee. I'm sorry, maintaining for fucking what? Right? Like, these fees are absolutely ridiculous. Bank of America, Wells Fargo. I just want you to know that there are so many other options. So I'll name a few. Ally is my favorite. Marcus by Goldman Sachs is a great savings account that's online that has a high yield. You can also Google, again, depending on when you're listening to this episode, if you Google Nerd Wallet, best high yield savings account 2024 or whatever year we're in, every single month they're releasing a list of the best online banks, high yield savings accounts. You could do this for like credit cards, balance transfer credit cards, like what beginner credit cards. They have lists for everything, every single month, every single year. So you can see a full list where you can research and see, like, okay, what's the interest rate for all of these different options? Do they have fees? Are they FDIC insured? Like, you can do all of your research. That's a great jumping off point looking into other options. Okay. I also want to be clear that we're not like chasing a high yield interest rate. We're not like moving banks every few months, depending on like who has the highest interest rate in their savings account. The difference between like 4.35 and 5% isn't that big. The difference between 0.05 and 4.35 is big. Okay. So for me, I'm in Ally. That's where my personal savings is at. And I'm not chasing the banks that have like the 4.9% interest, right? Because then that just gets messy. It's going to mess up your money flow. Getting yourself into a high yield savings account should be simple and easy. And then we could just leave it and not really think about it again, as long as it's flowing inside of your money flow, as long as it's making sense for your ecosystem, right? So this isn't something that you're going to have to like constantly be checking in on. This is something you're going to move. You're going to do it once. You're going to feel good about it. And then we're going to move on. And at the end of the day, a high yield interest rate is not going to beat inflation. Right? So that's also why we don't want to like chase the higher interest rate. Like, let's not put your energy there. Let's get you into a high yield savings account, and then let's move on and focus on other things like investing in the stock market, increasing your income. Like, let's do bigger needle moving things, because at the end of the day, your money that's sitting in a savings account, it's going to be losing value over time. Like, it's not a wealth building strategy. It's your safety net. It's your opportunity fund, right? That's what savings are for. more. So yes, we want it to lose value less quickly by having it in a high yield savings account, but the interest rate on a high yield savings account hardly ever beats the inflation rate, right? It's either at par or below what the inflation rate is. So that's why we don't want to like chase a 0.7% difference in your high yield savings account. Let's just keep it there, and then let's get you invested. Let's get you increasing your income. Let's get you doing other things that are going to make a higher impact for you. Okay, another thing I want to note about high yield savings accounts, especially because so many of my clients and you all have moved over to Ally and you use their bucket feature. So for those of you who don't know what the bucket feature at Ally is, what it allows you to do is inside of your one savings account, it allows you to split your money up into different buckets. And it's just like visually sectioning off your money. You can like add little pictures and create your own titles. So like you can have your vacation fund, you can have your moving fund, you can have your, your new headshots that you're saving for. You could have your like pet emergency fund, right? There's so many different things that you could be saving for, but you're like splitting up your savings visually into different buckets. Now, I've had a question a lot of like, does splitting my money up into buckets affect the interest that I'm earning on it? Absolutely not. All that's happening with the bucket feature inside of Ally or any of these other banks that offer a similar thing is they're just doing it on like the consumer facing end where like we can visually see it and it makes sense to our brains. But on the back end, it just looks like your one lump savings chunk, and that's what's earning interest. So it's literally just like a visual thing for us on our end. It's not actually splitting your money up into different savings accounts. So I just want to be clear that like using a bucket feature isn't going to have an impact on the interest that you are earning on your savings. I also feel like high yield savings accounts are like the gateway drug to financial wellness. Like they can catapult you on your journey towards being excited about what you can do with your money, how you can manage it differently, how you can have your money make you more money, like getting your relationship with money feeling juicy. Because I'm telling you, when you move your savings into a high yield account and you see that interest hit your account in that first month, that dopamine that you are going to get from that hit, you're going to be like, wait. If I put a little bit of intention into my money, I can make more money. Wait, that feels good. I'm excited about that. I have seen it happen time and time again. So like, this is a good gateway drug. Like move your money to a high yield savings account and see how it feels to like make that money move, because even just moving bank accounts can make you feel like you're in control over your money. It can have you step into your identity as financial CEO of like, I'm making a choice. I'm moving into a bank that I didn't just like default start using because it's the one my parents set up for me when I was like 10 years old, right? Like you are making a choice about your money, and then you are building your savings and you are getting to reap the rewards and see the interest rate that's dropping into your account. Oh, chef's kiss. It is a beautiful thing. So taking that first step, like I even want you to like remove all the other money to-dos that are in your brain right now. Let's remove all of that. And if the first thing that you do is move your money to a high yield savings account, let then that snowball you, right? So just focus on this one. This is one simple money move you can do this week. It will take you 7 minutes max to go onto, let's say, Ally Bank's website. I actually have, if you go to my YouTube channel, which is linked in the show notes. It is, well, if you're watching this on YouTube, here we are. Welcome to the YouTube channel. It's also in the link in my bio on Instagram. If you go to my YouTube channel and you see I have an Ally Bank walkthrough where it actually walks you through how to open an Ally Bank account. If you want to get a jump start this week, you can go on, I say it's 7 minutes. This is the max it'll take you. Go onto Ally Bank's website and you're going to click on open a checking and savings, or open one of them, and then it'll say like, do you also want to open a checking alongside of it, right? You can open your accounts. You're just going to boop, 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 a little bit of information, open the account, link your current bank account. When it says, how do you want to fund this account? You'll link your current bank account, drop like $2 into your new account, order your debit card. It'll either like automatically send you one, or there will be like a little thing that says order debit card. Get your debit card sent to you. Bing, bang, boom, account opened.
Right. And this is a very low stakes thing. Like then if like a week from now you were like, wait, I don't want to open a new bank account, you'll just close it. No harm, no foul. This has no effect on your credit score. It has no effect on like your history. Like no one has like there's no mark on your record that you like opened an account and then closed it. Like that's not a thing with bank accounts. So I'm lowering the stakes on all of this because I want you to start feeling empowered about making some of these money moves without money feeling like oh no, a high yield savings account, high pressure, what, right? Or like, oh my gosh, I'm moving banks, right? Okay, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you do open a high yield savings account because of this episode, please DM me and let me know. I would love to celebrate you on that. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I can't wait to drop another episode next week for you all about how to actually switch banks, the emotional weight that bank accounts can hold, why no matter what, it might benefit you to move banks. We'll talk about the dirty dish with Bank of America and Wells Fargo. We'll talk a little bit more about Ally. It'll be so good and so juicy. All right, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.